Hello, hello, amazing one, and welcome to this episode of the Sassy CEO podcast. I'm Paula Bailey, your host, and in this episode, I have the pleasure of welcoming Felicity Berends, who is the Sassy CEO of Polished Marketing, a digital marketing agency based up in Queensland, Australia, that specialises in making businesses look great online and ultimately grow from there. Now, Flick, as I love to call her, it's my nickname for her, has been in business for 11 years, which is an epic feat in itself for anyone who's been in business. It's pretty amazing. When I first met her 3 years ago, she felt quite overwhelmed, and the way she describes it is she didn't quite know what was wrong, but she knew something was off, and she was looking for direction in what to do beyond that sort of, that 8-year mark, I guess. Now it's a far cry of where things are today. And in this episode, we're documenting the history and the story of how things have evolved. And by doing that documentation, she drops some absolute pearlers in terms of wisdom around lessons that she's learned in business. And in particular, if you love chatting about all things personal development, manifesting, money mindset, subconscious beliefs, all that amazing, juicy stuff that we love to talk about at the Sassy CEO, this is the episode for you. We talk about her using her voice and not being so polite, which has changed her identity, and how she manifested $19,000 in less than 48 hours. Epic story. The one ritual that she practices that has just changed everything for her and helped her bring on a team that's actually aligned with her and also the mission of the business. And then how the actual polite thing to do would be to embrace all the opportunities that you have around you right now in business. This is not an episode to be missed. I really hope you enjoy it. Remember, if you'd like to grab yourself a copy of the Sassy CEO strategic planning template, head over to sassyceo.com.au/gift and download it for yourself. But without any further ado, let's head into having a chat to Flick. Felicity, better known as Flick. For the listeners out there, I will be calling Felicity Flick because that is what we lovingly call her in Sassy. Welcome to the Sassy CEO podcast. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thanks, Queen Sassy. It's good to be here.
Now, for those of you who haven't had an amazing chance to meet Flick yet, she's the Sassy CEO of Polished Marketing, an amazing marketing agency based up in Queensland. But let me not speak about it. You're the best person to speak about it. Tell us a little bit about what Polish does.
Well, we work with brilliant business owners all throughout Australia and even internationally, helping them with social media management, brilliant digital advertising, and building beautiful websites.
Yeah, you help them shine online.
Sure we do.
Yeah, awesome. So, you know what? As you know, I'm a very inquisitive woman. I like to ask a lot of questions. And whenever I meet someone who is in business, one of the first things I'm always really intrigued to know is, how did a business come to be? Because I think you've been in business for about 11 years now, right?
Yes, 11 years in January.
That's epic. So wind the clock back and tell us how you ended up being the owner of Polished.
Well, I always knew that I wanted to have my own business. I didn't know anybody in my entire personal world that did have their own business, so I didn't really have anyone to ask about it, but I knew that that's what I wanted to do. And I spent the first 8 years of my career really building a really good network and building a great name for myself, and especially in a couple of my key industries that I worked in. And then when the GFC hit in 2009, I was the head of marketing for a big real estate company, a big franchise company. We had 300 franchises across Australia. I'm standing in front of the bridge in Sydney, looking at the Opera House, when my boss rang me and said, "We need to cut your team down from 3.5 to 1 person." And I knew that was it. That was my time. And I walked back into the opera bar, and I was having lunch with 3 people, and I said, "I'm ready. This is what I'm doing." And
it's a sign. It's ready. It's time.
Yep. So I did. Started in the beginning of the GFC. Single, had a mortgage, balls of steel, and just knew that I should do it and everything would be okay. And here I am 11 years later.
But I still remember when you were first telling me about this. I mean, you literally started working out of a Westfield, right? You were in a cafe every day.
Yeah, I had a one-bedroom apartment in Brisbane, so it felt very small when I was there with my cat 24/7. So I would just go and chill in cafes around the different Westfields, and I was there so often that people would ask me, "Oh, do you work in the centre? We'll give you a discount." And I was like, "No, I'm just hanging out here." I was there that often, and it was before that was really a thing. That was back in 2009, where the idea of working in a cafe and running business from anywhere wasn't really
One
mainstream
would
as yet.
one would argue you probably were working in the
Yeah.
centre. You probably could have said, "Yes, I do. This is my office." I would love that discount. Thank you. That's amazing. So 11 years in business, which I think, congratulations. I mean, that is an epic feat to be here, standing, thriving 11 years later. I think hats off to you. You should be honoured for that and many other things. But you and I crossed paths about 3 years ago. And I'm going to actually tell the story from my perspective, and then you can jump in and maybe tell the listeners from your perspective, because it's a story that I think is, as it always is when it comes to, well, most things in Sassy, but especially when it comes to Flick, it's always steeped in magic and joy and love, but a lot of magic. I was actually hanging out in Bali. I'd been to a marketing retreat, and I'd spent sort of 5 days doing some cool, quite masculine marketing, very structured, dude-like marketing, which I love. Don't mind dipping my toe there. But I'd sort of had a few extra days just to chill. I was actually at the time only, I don't know if you know this, I was only about 4 or 5 weeks pregnant with Bailey, my son. And so I was just resting up and enjoying life and, sprinkling my magic as best I could in terms of my own marketing. And all of a sudden, as it always happens for me, I got an email from you saying, I think you'd seen something of mine and you wanted to book in to have a chat about an upcoming event that I had. And, within 24 hours, we were on the phone. And, it's like, as they say, the rest is truly history, because 3 years later, you're still here, very active member of our community, and continuing to grow from strength to strength. And I, hand on heart, say, like, when I look at you, this completely different woman to the woman that I first met and spoke to, 3 years ago. It's been an extraordinary journey for you, which I want to dive into a little bit more, because I think there's lots of lessons that listeners can take to take back into their own world. But yeah, so much magic. What was it like for you? I mean, where were you at when you? Because I think you said it was sort of like a magic thing for you as well. This thing popped up. Where were you at when you wanted
Well,
to?
I was 8 years in, and I was feeling smothered by my business and really unhappy, and I didn't know what was wrong or how to fix it. And I had been looking for someone to help me with strategy and coaching, and I'd been looking for a couple of weeks, and I just couldn't find anyone. So it was a Sunday morning. I sat my husband down in front of me and I said, "I just need to tell you everything that I need to find and what I want to find in a wonderful coach." And I said, I would love to work with a woman. I'd love her to work predominantly with women. I'd love her to understand me and have a similar mindset and be really proactive in the mindset area and help me just grow my business and become a better human. And I said, ideally, I would love her to be based somewhere else so I can go to events that are outside of Brisbane. And it was 40 minutes later, your ad popped up on Facebook, and boom, I
Hello.
you. Sassy. And that was it.
I think, the lesson there as well, like, if we could just really dissect the magic. I mean, we don't always want to dissect magic. Sometimes it's just nice to just go in the synchronicity of what is. But, being clear on what you want, how it's such an important first step of being able to attract what you want, right? It's just, how clear were you? You literally had the list, sent it out, and off you go. You don't have to wait years for it to come back.
40 minutes.
40 minutes. I think you've got plenty of stories that you can testament that you don't have to wait a long time for your list to come back, right?
No, just have to be clear as possible.
Yeah. So, you come in, you start doing the strategic planning, you start, re-looking at how you're running business? Like what were the first sort of changes that were really big for you to help you shift?
Well, I remember just in the first phone call alone before we even met, and the questions that you asked me, and the fact that I couldn't answer a lot of the ones that are about revenue. And there I was, 8 years in, I had staff. I had moving into an office, at my first office, and I couldn't tell you what my revenue was or what my profit was. And it was those sort of things. I thought, wow, I really need help in this area, and I need to step up and do this. And over the next year, you helped me understand the things that were making me unhappy. I couldn't work out why I was unhappy with my business. I just knew that something was wrong. And as we worked together to identify those and then come up with changes, and we completely transformed my business over that period of time, and keep transforming it today.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's such an interesting one, isn't it? The revenue questions and the money questions, like it's so common to have so much heaviness or weight around numbers and money, don't you think?
Yeah, it was something that I was honestly terrified to discuss and talk about in any aspect. I would do whatever I could to avoid discussing money, even making sure that I sent proposals without speaking to anyone, so I didn't have to utter the words, "This has a cost attached to it."
Or an investment.
Yes.
Yes.
But back
Yes.
then, all I saw was cost and money, and I just had a completely different approach and mindset regarding money than I do today.
Yeah, it was almost like like sometimes I would imagine you like talking to people and almost not wanting to speak about it. It was just, you wanted to like skirt over it, and you were like almost doing this to set, if for people listening, like I'm blindfolding myself, to then send the proposal, and there happens to be a dollar sign on there, down there somewhere in everything else amazing and sparkling that we do.
I actually had a gentleman once say, "But where's the cost?" Because he's flicking through the proposal, and I'm like, "Oh, it's at the end. It's in the really, 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 really light pink bit." And in
Yeah.
him, I mean, he got it up, but he could hardly see it, and it was just such a beautiful representation of my patterns back then. It was like I
Yeah.
was just too busy apologizing for the fact that I actually had to charge for what I do.
Yeah. So what do you think were the patterns? I think it's a good one. Like, what are the patterns that were coming up for you? Because so many of us can identify, I'm sure, with these patterns. And,
Oh,
one of the first steps of changing is consciousness. So if we talk about the pattern and you're hearing it and you're like, ooh, triggering me a little bit. Yeah, I think I might identify with that. Awesome. You're in the right place. So what were the patterns?
what were some of my favorites? I was exceptional at just not sending invoices. So I'd just be sitting there looking at my bank account thinking, good Lord, I've got to pay the team and pay my mortgage, and I haven't invoiced for 6 weeks. So I had clients that I forgot and never invoiced. So never, ever, ever invoiced. Um, I had clients that I felt so sorry for charging that I would cut my fee 50% and make pretty much no profit on the job, because in my head I enjoyed doing it so much and they needed help. So yeah, did that a lot.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's such a good one, right? The bit where it's like, but that was so easy for me and I really enjoyed it. It almost seems like it's not right to charge for that. And it's kind of a bit like, so remember at the last event, for the listeners, I played a game with everyone where I brought out $100 note. Felicity's already laughing. And I offered up the note. I did a couple of other things to bamboozle you guys so that your brains were sort of a little bit distracted, which is actually what's happening day-to-day life in business. Our subconscious patterns are coming up and we're not even aware of it. I mean, that's why it's subconscious. You're probably like the Paula, but day to day, you're like spot fire over here, finish that list over here. It's not like you're sitting there all day long going, oh, this is the time where I should be really conscious of the pattern that I got when I was 4 years old, and that I should be aware that I shouldn't undercharge. It just doesn't roll like that. If only. But so I had bamboozled everyone in the room on purpose, and then I offered for someone to give me $50 for the $100, and everyone bar one of our amazing members who's amazing at that stuff kind of just sat there and gave me this look like. And I still remember one of the best reasons afterwards, when we sort of went through and reviewed what had happened, what was going through people's minds. Someone said, I felt sorry for you, and I felt like I would hurt you.
It was me.
Was it you?
It was me.
Which is awesome, because again, just it's showing that up again, that it's like this whole thing, like, oh no, that's just far too easy for me. I could possibly charge really, really well and make a really juicy profit out of something that is just so easy for me to do. So
yeah, I'm getting better and better at it every month, but you tricked me with that one. I was a bit bamboozled.
Oh, a little bit bamboozled, but that's good, just to keep you on your toes. So, I mean, we've talked about some changes then, but ultimately, when you think about the last 3 years as your growth as a business owner, because this is ultimately my jam, helping that business owner truly grow. Because when you grow, your business grows and flourishes, and the whole point of what we're doing is to create stronger business owners in women, so that they can be conscious and wealthy and grow businesses that impact the community and the world. But for you personally, when you think about your personal experience and your journey, what's been the best change for you?
Using my voice and learning that it is okay to speak. I feel like I've spent most of my life being just strangled by the need to be polite at my own detriment, not even just in business, in my entire life, that I was so focused on being polite, I would sit back and be quiet and not use my voice and not speak. And the change in the work that we've done around that has just been incredible, and not just changed my business, but changed my life.
Yeah, it's been a big change. I mean, even in this last event, you coming away and telling me that story around being on a plane. Do you want to tell the story?
Which one? I've got so many.
The one where you were flying back from Melbourne after being at our last event, and how someone had their window open. Like, this is fascinating.
Yeah.
We'd just to set the scene for listeners, so you can understand that, the journey of this evolution to change the pattern. We had been speaking at the event around, a money thermostat, where you feel that, you're at a stage where you can't quite get past this revenue mark. And, the goal, being able to set goals within your strategic plan, but then from an internal mindset, subconscious level, how you rewire and recircuit to actually move past that so-called belief that this is as much as I'm allowed to make, or I can't grow the business any bigger than that. And obviously, stemming off from that is changes within our own behaviors. And for you, it's obviously using your voice. So you're on the plane, literally, a few hours after leaving us at Sassy, and someone's got their window open, or their window shade open.
Yeah. And it's a circumstance that I've been in so many times. So I'm sitting there, they've got their window open, the seat in front of me, the sun's coming in and it's blinding me and burning my arm. And I honestly would normally think, oh, I don't want to interrupt them. They're sitting there watching their movie. They had their headphones on. They were like really jamming and having a great time. So I would normally just sit there and take it and be uncomfortable and burn a little bit, rather than interrupt them to say, hey, sweetheart, can you change put your shade down? And for the first time, I actually just felt it was okay. And I just said, oh, excuse me, would you mind putting the shade down? And she was like, yeah, of course, no worries. Put it down.
Just like that.
It was such a big moment for me. Just that small little thing made such a difference.
Yeah. And then you continue this quarter, I know, to go out and to use your voice, not only with clients and with team. And I think just that shift in you, it's like you decided something different. You wrote the letter And maybe you can tell the story, because I think the emphasis on that, it doesn't take a lot to change. It's not like it has to be some monumental effort that takes 10 years to instigate, for you to come out of that event and just change just that tiny bit, changing that identity of who you are led to what happening?
Within about 40 hours after walking out of the event, I manifested $19,000.
Boom.
Boom.
Boom. That's one of our favorite things to say to each other in Sassy. And it's just so awesome, to see you start to align, your ability to be in the flow, because you are actually really good at that, but starting to collapse that old beliefs that don't serve you anymore, and to start to turn up as a woman authentically, unapologetically, as you are. I think even it's just a testament for you to even be on this podcast with me, don't you think?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Using voice. So proud of you. It's amazing. It doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to take 10,000 years. It still takes work. No one's saying that it doesn't. We have a fine balance between turning up and taking action and being consistent, but also still being very aware of the patterns we're running and the self-sabotage little things that we might be doing, or the ways that we might be distracting ourselves from doing what we said we were going to do, which is the aim of the game, really. Do you want to add anything on that? Like, is there any other tidbits or things that have been big for you when it comes to money mindset?
Just the fact that it's okay to talk about it, but also to have that as an important part of the things that I want, that it's okay to value money and the things that it can bring. I think that there was a part of me that was even resisting against that most of my life, that I had these dreams. I'd say that, I want freedom and I want to be able to travel and go to New York constantly because I love New York. But I wouldn't admit to the fact that I also want to have the wealth and money that can allow for that lifestyle. So the fact that I can really happily talk about all of it now is it's really freeing and powerful.
I still remember that even for myself, because I know a similar thing happened to you, like finding myself when I was doing my journaling constantly just talking about being abundant.
Yeah.
And it was almost as if I wasn't giving myself permission to say, well, what does abundance actually mean? Because, obviously abundance, we can relate that to financial abundance, but we can have an abundance of love, an abundance of health. And it's like that specificity. I can never say that word, being specific with the universe, with our own internal dialogue around money, and actually going, it's almost like a subset again of the belief and blocking it out. Oh, I want to be polite. I don't want to be crass and say, no, I want to be financially well. I want to be financially wealthy. And just leaving it at that, because we know that when you're financially well, when you're wealthy, when you've got an ability, your business is now an asset where you can grow your revenue as big or as, this big, whatever's right for you, because it's all about you at the end of the day. There's no cookie cutters. But when you're doing that and you're actually financially well, the impact that you have on the world, your ability to contribute back, not just for your family, but for other projects that you might have close to your heart. That's the power, is in having the actual financial means to make an impact. And so many of us, I think, have been brought up to almost say, we never spoke about money. It was rude to speak about money.
Absolutely.
You never asked someone how much they made, or, what, anything. Like I remember it was just such a taboo topic growing up. And so it sort of course, it's gonna knock on over into then how you're speaking about business. But when you actually let go of that and you really own it and say, no, I actually am aiming to be wealthy, to be financially well, to be able to contribute, and this is what my financial wealth looks like for me. I mean, in Sassy, remember, we've changed. We don't talk about just money-making activities. We talk about things on a wealth frequency, so that the members can be financially well and wealthy. Not just how do I make $10 or $20 over here. It's like it's an abundance in that way, but we're directly talking about money without apologizing, because it is not rude to talk about it.
Absolutely.
Yes, I love it. I love it. So, rounding up then, I know one of your favorite things to do is traveling down. Do you think it makes a difference to get out of your environment?
Oh God, yeah. It is so powerful for me. And it was on my list when I was manifesting you into my world, that was on my list. I wanted to get out, ideally out of Brisbane, but just even out of my office. I wanted to go somewhere, be away. And that's where I wanted to do my magical work on my business, because I know that if I'm in the office, as hard as I work, everyone's there, and the clients are there, and it's really hard to take that time and give yourself that time that you really need to invest to make the huge changes in growth.
Absolutely. I think you think so differently when you're away from your environment. I do that myself for my business. I wouldn't ask you guys to do anything that I'm also not doing. But something changes. It's almost like you get access to different ideas, different opportunities when you change it up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I know. I mean, we do a lot of work before anyone comes into the rooms at Sassy to create that special container so that you guys can get the best ideas to move forward for the next quarter, because we do that every quarter. It's a big part of it. Awesome. So, rounding up, I'm going to ask you some quick and short questions that I know will help the listeners in terms of getting ideas for things that they can do to up-level their game as business owners.
Okay.
Ready?
Bring it.
Bring it. Okay. What is the best advice that you ever got given?
It's been a bit of a theme today, but don't be too polite to go out and grab the opportunity that's circling around you.
Yeah, welcome it with open arms. There's lots of opportunity around you. I love it. What's a ritual that defines you?
Definitely gratitude journaling. It's a big part of my life and my day to day. And even if I don't have my journal, if we're just out on a walk, hubby and I will just like go, okay, dude, tell me 5 things that you were just amazingly grateful for today. And so we'll just verbalize it, and it's awesome.
So good. How do you feel like that's really helped you, the gratitude thing? Like, how does it change you as a person?
Well, I feel like it's always been a huge part of my life, but I didn't realize how important it was and how important it was to dedicate the time to do that, because I've always found that if I'm around negative, ungrateful people, then I just like I just that I'm
Do you
not
do
interested.
do you do it with your team?
Yeah, they're beautiful. They at least once a week, one of my team, if we're offsite, will send me a text message saying, "Can you pull me an oracle card?" Like it's just awesome. And yeah, we're all really. It's one of the values that I look for in team members, is being a grateful, just good human. So it's definitely something big and polished.
On that note, do you think that's changed your ability to, we talk about attracting great clients, like, and how easy that is when you're actually doing the work,
Yeah.
the real work. But what about attracting really great team members? Because your team completely changed.
Yeah, we've got a really different team than we had a couple of years ago, and putting like being in flow and putting that out there in terms of how I want to feel day to day in my business, and that comes down to the people that are surrounding me in terms of clients and my team, is so important. So yeah, looking for things like that, people that value gratitude and are grateful for things around them, is awesome. And
Yeah.
I love being surrounded by team and clients that fit that mold.
Yeah, and it's not to say that, people that have worked for businesses in the past, that they were any less of important people. They were, we're grateful for them for the contribution. But I know for myself in my journey, something magic happens when you start to really align with, what does the organization stand for? What are the values? What are we really looking for here in the actual human being, beyond just a subset of a skill? I know that that's been a complete game changer for my business.
Yeah, we're so
Yeah.
focused on fit and culture and values that's a big driver in our recruitment process, which is awesome.
Awesome. So good. And finally, a little saying that we have at Sassy is, we always say hashtag sassy as fuck. whenever something really cool happens. But I'm always interested to know, like, what does that mean for you? What's the definition of sassy as fuck for you?
It's just the connection that we have with the women inside that room is just incredible, because business can be so bloody lonely, even when you have a team of staff. But you walk into Sassy, or even you walk into the group on Facebook, and there's a bunch of women that get you, that understand your business, that understand what you're going through, that are just willing to jump on the phone and lend an ear to whatever's happening in that day. They'll celebrate you, they'll commiserate with you if you're having a rough day, but also not just pour on the poor you. They'll come straight in with, okay, this has happened, that is shit, but you should do like this, think about this, think about this. Like, it's just this constant flow of beautiful energy from amazing women in business, and at the same time they inspire the hell out of me with what they're
I love
doing.
it. Love it. So good. It's just I'm so grateful that I get to call this my work, and I get to, build this. This is what I had in mind for so many years. And full transparency, it took me a long time to have enough courage to really own it and step into it. So if you're out there listening, wondering if you can ever bring your imagination into true fruition, I say yes, hell yes, you can, but let the picture get painted brush by brush. It doesn't have to, the masterpiece doesn't have to happen immediately. It, literally happens stroke by stroke. So just begin the masterpiece, I say.
Yeah, building.
Yeah,
building.
That's it. Okay, finally, what's next? What's the biggest thing that you're going to do in the next quarter?
Grow. We have really been spending the last couple of months, well, the last probably year or so, refining what we want, what we love to do, because we have we're a creatives agency, so we have a range of services, and building our dream team. And so from here on, I feel like we're ready. We're about to move into a brand new office in January, and we're ready to take everything that we've learned and grow, take off.
Boom. Love it. If you're interested in learning more about Felicity and the Polish team and what they do, I will drop information about them and their gorgeous website in the show notes, so you can go check them out. Follow them on Insta. They have some seriously great content to follow across their social platforms, because obviously they're the experts at that. So make sure you go check them out. I'll drop the links below. But for now, I just want to say thank you for coming along and documenting where you are now and sharing your wisdom with everyone here listening to the show. I really appreciate you always.
Thanks for having me. Loved it.
Loved it. Thank you so much. We will catch you very, very soon on the next episode of the Sassy CEO podcast.
Bye.